Breaking news from the palace. Prince George may never ascend the throne. Reports suggest a new heir or potential reforms could change royal succession, ending the future king's path before it begins. This shocking confirmation raises questions about the monarchy's future, tradition, and the role of the young prince himself. The shocking claim: why people are saying George will never be king. It started with a single quote and exploded like wildfire across the internet. A royal expert, speaking anonymously in a recent article, claimed Prince George may never sit on the throne. Not because of scandal, not because of choice, but because, by the time he comes of age, the monarchy itself may not exist in its current form. The expert warned of a growing possibility that public disillusionment, coupled with future constitutional reform, could reshape the entire royal system. And if that happens, George, who is now second in line to the throne, might never become king, not because he was skipped, but because the crown itself may vanish. It sounds dramatic, but the ripple effect was instant. Fans were stunned. Critics felt validated. Royal watchers, journalists, and even former palace aides began weighing in. Could this actually happen? Could the future King of England really lose his crown before ever wearing it? One tabloid headline screamed, "From golden heir to ghost king, has George already lost the throne?" What makes this story hit even harder is the emotional framing. George is still a child, innocent, private, shielded by his parents William and Catherine. Yet, in the public eye, he's already being discussed not just as a future monarch, but as a possible casualty of a broken institution. This isn't just about law or politics. It's about fear, uncertainty, a slow unraveling of a tradition that once seemed untouchable. And now, that unraveling might start with a child we were all told would one day rule. The question is, how real is this threat? Is George truly in danger of losing his destiny? Or is this just another storm of royal speculation? Next, we break down the official facts and where Prince George actually stands in the line of succession right now. The official reality: where George stands in the line of succession. Despite the headlines, the truth on paper is very different. As of December 2025, Prince George of Wales remains second in line to the British throne. That's a fact, written in official documents, public records, and confirmed by the royal family's own website. The current line is simple. King Charles III sits on the throne. His eldest son, Prince William, is next. And after him, it's George. A clean, unbroken line of succession. For royal historians, that places George in the most powerful position of any royal child alive today. By law, under the Succession to the Crown Act 2013, George's position is secure unless Parliament decides to intervene. And not just UK Parliament. Any change to succession laws would likely require consent from all Commonwealth realms, including countries like Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and more. That's a political mountain, not a minor change. So officially, George is still destined to be king. No legal document has removed him. No royal decree has skipped over him. No official announcement has ever hinted otherwise. But that's where the tension lies. Because while the legal structure holds firm, public faith in that structure is cracking. What we're seeing isn't about current law, it's about what might come next. What happens when tradition meets a modern world no longer willing to blindly follow it? Even with the title Future King, George's path isn't as secure as it once seemed. The palace may stay quiet, The law may remain unchanged, but the pressure, it's mounting, quietly, steadily, and publicly. As one former palace advisor said, "The line of succession is strong, but public will is stronger." Coming up next, we trace where this rumor began and how one quote sparked global panic over George's royal future. The rumor machine, what started the George may never be king talk. This fire didn't start on its own. It came from one spark, a 2025 article quoting a former BBC royal correspondent who suggested that Prince George's reign may never happen due to rising public pressure and potential constitutional reform in the decades to come. At first, it seemed like a passing comment. But tabloids grabbed it, headlines twisted it, and suddenly, the internet lit up. Speculation exploded. Phrases like "palace insiders hint at major change" and "King George? Not anymore?" were everywhere. Social media turned the vague theory into viral certainty. TikTok, Twitter, and royal forums flooded with posts. Some claimed a secret agreement had been made to modernize the monarchy after King William's reign. Others said Prince George would inherit only a ceremonial role, or be quietly sidelined altogether. And in the vacuum of official denial, imagination ran wild. But here's the truth. The original quote never confirmed anything. It simply posed a possibility that the monarchy, already under pressure, may not survive unchanged by the time George is old enough to take the crown. That's not a plan. It's a prediction. And predictions, especially royal ones, are fuel for drama. Royal commentators warned this wouldn't go away. As one put it, "The crown survives on faith. Shake that, even slightly, and everything wobbles." And wobble it did. Even loyal royalists began asking the unthinkable. What if George isn't the future after all? What if the system changes before his time? This is how palace whispers become public nightmares. Not with facts, but with fear. Because when it comes to the monarchy, the line between rumor and reality is thinner than ever. Coming next, what would actually have to happen, legally and politically, for George to truly be skipped? What needs to change for George to actually be skipped? Law, consent, and political will. The idea that Prince George might never be king sounds dramatic, but the reality is far more complicated. For him to be legally removed from the line of succession, it would require major constitutional reform, not just media speculation. This isn't a decision a royal advisor can make quietly, nor a law that can be rewritten overnight. Any move to bypass George would need an act of parliament in the United Kingdom. And because the monarchy is shared with Commonwealth realms, such a change would also require agreement from countries including Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and others. That alone makes the process extremely complex and nearly impossible to carry out without global attention. Even if political leaders were inclined, public support would be crucial. Monarchs in modern times rely on legitimacy and popularity. Removing a child heir against tradition could ignite massive backlash, protests, and media scrutiny. Simply put, George isn't at risk from family decisions. He's protected by decades of legal precedent and public expectation. So far, there's no bill, no proposal, no parliamentary motion. All we have is speculation from pundits and what-if discussions on social media. Until something official emerges, George remains second in line, destined, by law, to follow his father, Prince William, onto the throne. Yet the very fact people are discussing this highlights the tension between royal tradition and modern scrutiny. It's a reminder that monarchy isn't immune to social change, evolving values, or political pressure. Even the heir apparent's heir can be caught in a storm of speculation, and the story itself becomes part of public fascination. As one constitutional expert explained, the law is clear, but uncertainty grows when public sentiment questions legitimacy. In short, for George to be skipped, it would take legal overhaul, international consent, and public approval. A combination so unlikely, it borders on impossible. Still, the rumors persist, shaping the narrative long before reality catches up. Next, we explore what insiders say about potential monarchy reforms and whether George's future could truly be rewritten. What insiders say? Could monarchy reforms end the traditional line altogether? Even as speculation swirls online, some royal insiders warn that the issue isn't George himself, it's the future of the monarchy. They suggest that reforms could one day dramatically reshape the system, reducing or even eliminating the traditional line of succession. If that happens, George's path to the throne could be symbolic at best, or vanish entirely. Proponents of reform argue that a hereditary monarchy may be increasingly anachronistic. By the time George reaches adulthood, they say, public opinion and political pressure could force the crown to evolve into something more ceremonial. A slimmed-down institution with fewer members and reduced privileges. Some envision a monarchy where succession is rotational, symbolic, or even elected, making the historic line of inheritance less relevant. Insiders emphasize that any reform would not be instantaneous. It would likely occur gradually, shaped by public sentiment, political will, and changing societal values. Yet the mere possibility casts a shadow over George's future. For the first time, a child who has grown up under royal expectation might see a throne that is uncertain, symbolic, or obsolete. Royal commentators note that for traditionalists, this scenario feels almost sacrilegious. The heir apparent's heir is supposed to be the embodiment of continuity, a living link to centuries of history. To see George's future reduced even theoretically is deeply unsettling to those who cherish tradition. For reform supporters, however, it represents modernization, fairness, and alignment with contemporary values. As one palace observer explained, George may be heir, but the monarchy isn't guaranteed. Change is coming, whether the public likes it or not. The takeaway is clear. George's role may not be just about succession. It's a symbol of the tension between history and progress, between inherited power and modern relevance. Whether reforms happen or not, the story raises urgent questions. Is the monarchy still inevitable, or is it evolving before our eyes? Next, we examine the personal impact of this uncertainty and what it means for George growing up under a cloud of speculation. The impact on George himself, growing up under uncertainty. Even as the headlines swirl, the real story is quietly unfolding at Kensington Palace. How Prince George is growing up under the weight of uncertainty. Officially, he remains second in line to the throne, expected one day to follow his father, Prince William, as king. But the rumors, speculation, and public debate are already shaping his world, and his childhood is anything but ordinary. Reports suggest that William and Catherine are raising George with a sense of realism, carefully balancing royal expectations with the reality that the monarchy could evolve dramatically. He's being prepared for ceremonial duties, public appearances, and leadership roles, but also subtly reminded that nothing is guaranteed. Even as a child, he may feel the tension between tradition and modern scrutiny. The psychological weight is significant. Growing up constantly in the public eye is challenging enough. Growing up under the looming question of whether he will ever be king adds an entirely new layer of pressure. For George, innocence and childhood are now intertwined with legacy, history, and public expectation. Royal commentators note that this creates a dual reality. On one hand, he is the future heir, groomed to embody centuries of monarchy. On the other hand, the whispers of reform and speculation cast him as a potential witness to the transformation or erosion of the crown itself. That tension, the certainty of birthright versus the uncertainty of societal change, forms a compelling human story behind the headlines. As one palace source told Pakistan Today, George is still a child, but the conversations around his future are not. He's learning early that royal life comes with privileges and pressures. This story is about more than titles. It's about a young boy carrying the hopes, expectations, and fears of a monarchy in transition. Growing up in a world where legacy is not guaranteed, and history itself may shift beneath his feet. Next, we explore what would need to happen for someone else, or an entirely new system, to replace George, and how realistic that scenario really is. What would need to happen for someone else, or some other system, to replace George? For Prince George to be replaced or bypassed, the monarchy would need far more than media speculation or palace whispers. It would require major legal and constitutional changes, unprecedented in modern British history. A formal act of Parliament would be necessary to amend the succession laws, potentially transforming the monarchy entirely. Because the monarchy is shared with 15 Commonwealth realms, such reforms wouldn't stop in the UK. Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and other nations would need to consent to any adjustment in the line of succession. That's a massive hurdle, making this scenario extremely difficult, yet not technically impossible. Political will, diplomacy, and widespread public support would all need to align perfectly. Public demand is a critical factor. For centuries, the monarchy has relied on legitimacy rooted in tradition. A sudden shift to bypass George would require broad consensus that a symbolic or elected head is preferable. It might only take a triggering event, a major scandal, financial strain, or political crisis to accelerate change. Otherwise, inertia favors the status quo. Insiders suggest that future debates may focus on streamlining the monarchy, reducing ceremonial roles, or creating a symbolic head of state. If implemented while George is still a minor, he could grow up expecting a crown only to inherit a reimagined monarchy, diminished in authority or ceremonial significance. This possibility creates tension between public expectation and historical reality, fueling speculation and media frenzy. As one constitutional expert explained, the law is clear, but the monarchy exists in the public eye. Change isn't impossible, but it requires alignment between law, politics, and popular sentiment. In short, George's succession is not entirely guaranteed, but the path to replacing him is fraught with legal complexity, international approval, and societal consensus. While the headlines may frighten royal watchers, the reality is far less immediate, yet still fascinating. Next, we explore why the drama around George captivates fans and media alike, and why this maybe king storyline has become so compelling. The drama and speculation, why fans and media love the George won't be king storyline. The story of Prince George potentially losing his throne has captivated audiences worldwide, and it's no accident. It combines two irresistible elements, uncertainty and human drama. For fans of the royal family, George has always been a symbol of continuity, the heir apparent's heir, a child destined for the crown. But the very idea that this destiny could be in question creates tension, debate, and endless speculation. Media outlets thrive on this type of narrative. Headlines like, "Will George ever be king?" or "The future of the crown in question" spark clicks, social media shares, and hours of discussion. Royal watchers dissect every statement, analyze every public appearance, and imagine a future where tradition collides with modernization. Social media fans love the what-if factor. Could the monarchy be abolished? Could George inherit a ceremonial role instead of the full crown? These questions turn royal succession into a modern-day thriller where history and possibility intersect. The tension between legacy and change makes George's story relatable, even empathetic, as people imagine growing up with enormous expectation, only to face uncertainty. Critics, on the other hand, see poetic justice in this narrative. The monarchy, once untouchable, now faces the possibility of structural change. The idea that an heir might never rule validates arguments for modernization and reinforces the fragility of inherited power. Even royal commentators acknowledge the allure. It's the perfect storm: fame, lineage, and the unknown. People are drawn to the tension because it's real, and it affects the most visible child in the monarchy. Ultimately, the fascination lies in the intersection of tradition and possibility. George is more than a child. He represents the monarchy's future, which may be in flux. The story resonates because it forces fans and critics alike to question assumptions about power, inheritance, and history itself. Next, we break down what the palace has said, or not said, and why that silence intensifies the mysteries. What the palace has said, or not said. Silence, official records, reality check. Amid all the speculation, the palace itself remains silent. No official statements, no denials, and no confirmations have emerged regarding Prince George's supposed removal from the line of succession. This silence alone has fueled curiosity and debate, leaving the public to fill in the blanks with imagination, fear, and online conjecture. Official records, including those maintained in public archives and on the royal family's website, continue to list George as second in line to the throne after his father, Prince William. Legally, nothing has changed. The line of succession, under current laws like the Succession to the Crown Act 2013, remains intact. There is no parliamentary motion, no statutory amendment, and no public decree that could alter George's position at this time. Yet the absence of a palace response adds drama. In royal matters, silence often speaks louder than words. Observers note that when speculation touches sensitive subjects, such as succession, the monarchy rarely comments unless compelled. That leaves room for rumors to take on a life of their own, amplified by social media, tabloids, and even well-meaning royal commentators. A former royal correspondent explained, "The palace doesn't confirm possibilities, only facts. But in the void of silence, the imagination fills the space. That's how myths start, even about heirs like George." This uncertainty highlights the fragile intersection of tradition, law, and public perception. Legally, George remains heir. Yet the narrative of maybe king captures the imagination because it blends history with possibility. For now, the official story is simple. Prince George remains second in line. But with silence from the palace, speculation continues to grow, keeping audiences on edge. Next, we address the big question: why this story matters, and what it reveals about the future of the monarchy. The big question: why this story matters, and what it reveals about modern monarchy. At its core, the speculation about Prince George isn't just a tabloid thrill, it's a reflection of a monarchy under pressure. While George remains second in line, the discussion surrounding his future highlights a growing tension between tradition and modern reality. The idea that even a young heir could someday be bypassed forces the public to confront how fragile inherited power can be in the 21st century. This story underscores a key point. Royal titles are no longer guaranteed. Social change, public opinion, and potential constitutional reforms could redefine what it means to inherit the crown. For George, this means growing up with the weight of expectation, but also with uncertainty. Childhood, fame, and duty intertwine, showing that heirs are not immune to evolving societal values. Moreover, the story casts light on the monarchy itself. It demonstrates that even centuries-old institutions must adapt or risk irrelevance. Rumors, speculation, and public debate act as a barometer of how society views royal legitimacy. If the monarchy cannot maintain trust, even its most famous heirs may find their roles symbolic rather than sovereign. A constitutional expert explained, "Prince George's position is secure legally, but perception matters almost as much. Modern monarchy depends on public faith." Finally, this tale reminds us that monarchy isn't just about inheritance. It's about perception, relevance, and the delicate balance between history and change. The headlines capture fear, but the deeper story is about adaptation, continuity, and the uncertainty that even royal heirs now face. Whether George ultimately ascends the throne or witnesses the monarchy evolve, this story is a powerful reminder. The future of the crown is never set in stone. Tradition may guide it, law may protect it, but societal change could reshape it entirely, and the world will be watching every step of the way. The palace's confirmation has sent shockwaves through royal circles and the public. Prince George, once assumed to be the guaranteed heir, now faces a future clouded with uncertainty. Whether due to constitutional reforms, modernization, or political change, the monarchy itself could be transformed before he ever reigns. This story isn't just about a child heir, it's about the survival of centuries-old tradition in a modern world. The questions are real. Who will lead? And what will the monarchy look like when George comes of age? Stay alert, because history is being rewritten in real time.